This is the story of multiplication methods called doubling and halving and the Russian Peasant Method. Suppose we want to multiply 4 times 3. Now I know what you're thinking, 4 times 3 is 12. But we could also take 4 times 3 and rewrite it by halving one of the factors and doubling the other. So if we have 4, we get 2, and if we double 3, we get 6. 4 times 3 is equivalent to 2 times 6. Now we can continue this until we finally have 1 times 12, which we know is 12. So 4 times 3 is equal to 12. But why does this work? So let's look at the same problem. 4 times 3, which we know is 12. Now 4 times 3 means 4 threes. So we can use some blocks to show 4 groups of 3 blocks in each group. Now if we take the 4 groups and rearrange them so that we have 2 groups of 6 blocks, we now have 2 times 6, or 2 sixes. And if we regroup those blocks into one group of 12 blocks, we have 1 times 12, or 1 12. We haven't changed the number of blocks, so we haven't changed the value of the product. Now, this method is called halving and doubling, or sometimes it's called doubling and halving. You may be thinking, that's really interesting, but will it always work? Well, let's try the method on some larger numbers. How about 16 times 7? We'll halve and double. So we'll have 8 times 14, and 4 times 28, and 2 times 56, and 1 times 112. So 16 times 7 is equal to 112. Let's try something else. How about 5 times 3? Now we know what that is. That's 15. Let's try halving the 5 and doubling the 3. Half of 5 is 2 1/2, and double 3 we get 6. Half of 2 1/2 is 1 1/4, and when we double 6 we get 12. So 5 times 3 is equivalent to 2 1/2 times 6, and it's also equivalent to 1 1/4 times 12. Where on earth do we find the 15 in that? Well, let's go back to the beginning. Half of 5 was 2 1/2. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to completely ignore the half. So when we get half of 5 is 2 1/2, we'll just call it 2. And we'll double 3 to get 6. Now 5 times 3 is not equal to 2 times 6, but that's okay. Let's keep on going. Half of 2 is 1, and we double 6 to get 12. So where's the 15? There it is. The 15 is the 3 plus the 12. This is called the Russian Peasant Method of multiplication. We have one factor and double the other. And if the factor we're having is odd, we'll just keep the whole number part of that division. Then we add together the numbers opposite those odd factors. That will give us our product. So let's try the Russian Peasant Method with some larger numbers. How about 22 times 5? We'll halve the 22 and double the 5. And then we'll keep on halving and doubling until we finally have a first number of 1. We'll take the numbers opposite the odd first numbers and add them together. So 10 plus 20 plus 80 is 110. But why on earth does this work? Well, let's use the blocks again and some smaller numbers to figure it out. So we'll go back to the 5 times 3, which we know is 15. We said we would halve the 5 and double the 3. Now 5 times 3 means 5 threes. And if we have the 5 and get 2.5, we said we would drop the half and just look at it as 2, and then double the 3 to get 6. So let's see, 5 threes is this, 5 groups of 3. And then when we have the 5, we get 2.5. So what we'll have to do is set aside one of our groups of 3 and then take the remaining 4 groups of 3 and rearrange them into 2 groups of 6. So that group of 3 that we set aside is showing up right here in our work. It's the number opposite the 5. Now 2 and 6 can be halved and doubled to give us one group of 12. So we add the 12 blocks plus the 3 blocks that we set aside, and we ignore the 2 and the 6 because we regrouped the 2 groups of 6 to give us the one group of 12. So you can see it's those numbers opposite the odd numbers, opposite the 5 and opposite the 1, that gives us our group of 3 blocks and our group of 12 blocks for 15 blocks in all. Let's use the Russian Peasant Method on a different problem. Maybe something that sometimes we get a little bit confused about when we're trying to remember multiplication tables. Like 7 times 8, which is, I don't know, 54, 56, 58, somewhere in there. Well, we'll use the Russian Peasant Method. So we'll have the 7 and we'll double the 8. Now half of 7 is 3.5. We'll just call it 3. We'll double 8 to get 16. So what really happened here? Well, we had 7 groups of 8. When we halved 7, we said we can get out of the 7 groups of 8 3 groups of 16 by rearranging, but that would leave us with one leftover group of 8. Now we've got 3 groups of 16, and since 3 is odd, we're not going to be able to simply have 3. We'll have to drop the 1/2 in the 1.5, but we can double 16 and get 32. So when we have 3 and get 1, we're saying we can get one group of 32, and then we'll have a leftover group of 16. So now what do we have? One group of 32, one group of 16, and one group of 8. And if we add together 32, 16, and 8, we get 56. So 7 times 8 is 56. The Russian Peasant Method can be used to multiply any 2 whole numbers. So let's try it with some larger numbers, like 17 times 9. Now remember, if we have an odd number, we're only going to keep the whole number part of that division. And we stop when we get down to a first number of 1. Then we add together the numbers opposite the odd numbers on the left. So we have 17 times 9 is 153. You can see that halving and doubling can be used to multiply any 2 numbers together. And the Russian Peasant Method takes halving and doubling one step further by giving us an easy way to deal with halving odd numbers. So if you can divide by 2, multiply by 2, and add, you can multiply any 2 numbers together easily.